All right, well, this is Aaron Squire coming to you guys again. We got episode 33 coming at you. I got a pre-recorded interview with Juzamjedi, which I'm about to start. And tonight we've got some giveaways to do. I've got a bunch of stuff that Cryptozoic was nice enough to send out, and so a bunch of the streamers should have their beta keys for you guys. And then actually we've also got some free drafts we can give out. So I'll probably be giving one of those away as well towards the end of the program. But let's go ahead and start things off with this interview, and then later we're going to do a Reginald Lancashire deck. So stay tuned. All right, well, this is Aaron Squire, and on with me tonight, I've got a special guest. We're doing this pre-recorded for tomorrow's show. This is Juzamjedi. He's been on count 'em, two of the Two Turns Ahead podcast now, so a pretty big deal. He's not even in our guild, and he's coming on the shows. So, just gonna go ahead and welcome him to the show tonight. We're gonna talk about some of the different stuff that he's doing, and then we're gonna talk about some sad news in our community, and we'll go over some patch notes, and then I will transition back and do the Deck Doctor live. So, starting off, Juzamjedi, just talk to me about some of the things that you did prior to Hex. Like, talk to me about your TCG background.
Sure. So I started, the first TCG that I ever played was Magic the Gathering. I started in ninth grade, which for me would have been way back in 1995. I think it was probably when maybe Revised was coming out, but in any case,
Wow,
I played.
That's like third, right?
Yeah, made a lot of bad trades back then that I regret, but not
I think a lot of people
gonna
did.
dwell on the past too much there. But in any case, played off and on
Why
for.
would I want these Moxes? They're just another land.
Why would I want these Force of Wills? That was the big one for me. I opened tons of those, but in any case, but yeah, I played off and on that game for a long time. Still do play it usually. A little bit more on the casual side now, but
Right.
I'm more of the store end boss, I guess. I don't typically do a whole lot of Grand Prix and that sort these days.
Right. You're that guy that's always in the top four if you guys cut the top four or whatever.
Right.
Man, that annoys me when shops do that.
Well,
or top eight or whatever.
We're pretty lucky. Yeah, we get lots of big turnouts, so we don't actually end up doing the top four thing because it's so late when we start. So we just have the whole event go and just everybody plays, and
Right.
so I just sit on table one and King of the Mountain. It's fun.
I love how people always complain, like, oh, it always goes so long. I'm like, you just added 3 rounds by cutting to top 8. And there was 20 people that showed up. Come on. So, next question is, how did you find Hex, or talk to me about that?
Yeah, so I played another game online with some other friends, and it was one of those guys who was in the guild with us that actually clued me into Hex, told us about the Kickstarter. And at first I saw it, I wasn't sure if I wanted to back it because
Right. Everyone,
it was
you
it
take a
was
look at it and you're just like, I'm not sure. You have to really do some research.
right. Well, more than that, I'm just not the type that just goes and throws my money around. I'm usually a little bit frugal there. But I
Right.
saw it and I started reading more about what they wanted to do, and especially with the digital space and some of the cards
Right.
affecting your opponent's deck and going into your own deck and modifying cards permanently. All of those things sounded pretty exciting to me, and what they could do that just a physical game couldn't do.
Right.
Uh, and as I read more into it, the whole guild decided, you know what, we're all going to do this. We're all going to go and back Hex, and we all actually, well, not every single person in the guild, but most
So
of the
which
people in the
guild?
guild actually
Like,
came over.
are you talking about like a WoW guild, or what are you talking about?
We played, it was another online card game called Legacy of Heroes.
Mm-hmm.
It was a short-lived game, only lasted about a year and a half. But we were actually the Dragonboard Guild over there, and that kind of leads into one of the other things we're going to talk about here. But
Right.
we actually decided, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and take everybody that's in the league here and go start over on Hex, and we're going to be the Dragonboard League over on Hex. So that's
Right.
what we did.
So talk to me about your guild then. Like, you know, we obviously know the Hex CCG Pro Guild, and we know some of the other big ones, like oh, I forget the other one is. We were talking about it right before the show too.
Clan Black.
Clan Blackblade is the big dog on the block. So you guys are Dragonborn. Actually, I remember being on a WoW server, and Dragonflight was the big guild. But talk to me about Dragonborn. Like, what are you guys all about?
So, the biggest thing about our guild is we don't ever want to be the biggest guild. We really value interaction with each other, and we have a Skype channel that we all share, and we're pretty active on there. Most people are talking either about games or, hey, I'm going to be drafting and streaming. Do you want to come watch? Or, hey, did I build this deck correctly? And just all sorts of different, game-related guild talk, even though we don't even have the PvE side yet. So we tend to value the interaction with each other quite a lot. So
right,
that's the biggest thing there.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like a very supportive community. So, like, if somebody wanted to join your guild, like, how easy would it be to get in? Do you guys have some prerequisites or anything, or?
I don't know that we have a strict certain criteria, but I would say that yeah, we are a little bit selective. It's more of a if you get to, if one of the members
don't
of
be
the
a douche.
Well, that's definitely true. We don't want anyone that's like that. We like to think that we're pretty friendly in general, and it's the kind of thing where if one of the other members of the guild has somebody who's either a friend or that they really think would be another positive member like that and wants to have that high interaction, that's typically who we end up inviting to the guild.
Right. So, like a small little elite force,
A little bit, yeah. We like to test for tournaments together. We don't like to test in the proving grounds with random people. So.
Right. Well, yeah, that is something that's a problem right now because there's no trading. So, like, whenever you go in there and you're trying to play a deck, there's a very good chance you're not going to play against someone that's as serious or has the collection that you have, and so it's a waste of their time, and it can be a waste of yours for sure.
Yeah, we were even that way back when there was alpha and we had
every
card available. We just
exactly.
we just preferred testing. Hey, let's do this matchup. Let's jam 10 games and pre-sideboard, post-sideboard, and
right. You waste a lot less time that way too because you can kind of like see where the match is going after a couple of turns, and you don't have to play the whole thing out. Right. So talk to me about the content that you do personally.
So I am a drafter. Most of what I do on stream is drafting. My stream is twitch.tv/Juzamjedi, Juzamjedi, like the card from Magic and Star Wars. But what I do for the most part is I do drafting. My drafting style is that I typically will take whatever card I think is the best card for every card in pack 1, and I'll talk about the different picks and what it is that I think are the cards that I'm considering, and ultimately why I end up choosing the card that I do. And I tend to be a little bit more on the serious side, but a little bit more of like a mentor. I don't know if that's really the right word, but
right.
talk about my process and my thoughts of why I'm making certain plays or why I'm making certain picks.
Right. So you actually don't even commit to a shard in your first pack necessarily? Or...
Not necessarily, yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of times...
you take the best each time, yeah.
Right, that's usually the way that I'll do it. Now, sometimes, I know early on I've got 3 Thunderbirds or whatever has happened to happen.
Yeah, three Honeycaps or something.
Exactly, yeah.
And, I mean, sometimes I'll pass things specifically to push people into shards and to signal. But personally, that's my style, I guess. I commit pretty early to shards, it seems. Probably a little bit too early, I think.
Maybe. Well, see, that's the thing. I have found, and this is my impression of doing however many 100 drafts, I feel like the shards in this set are pretty balanced overall.
Right.
Even though I have a preference, I feel like you can win with any shard pairing, and it's, for me, I think that the best way to go about drafting set 1 is just saying, okay, what is it that the other people don't want to draft in here for whatever reason?
Right, what's open. Yeah.
What's open.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened last weekend to me. So moving on. So we do have some sad news. Of course, you guys highlighted this on the last podcast that Two Turns Ahead did with I think Zubrin was heading that one up. So Heavy Hitter 86 has passed away, I guess, in a car accident. And I don't remember specifically speaking to him, but I think he might have come on and talked to me over my chat channels while I was streaming. I looked through my tournament history, and I know I didn't play against him, but I think I might have even tested some decks against him. I do know that he was in my channel quite often. And he was a very much a supporter of the different streamers in the streaming community. So I definitely will miss him, and he will be sorely missed. I hope that when I make it to heaven at the end of my life, that I will be able to see him again, and I just pray for him and for his family. So Juzam, talk to me about maybe how you feel about, if you have anything to add. You did talk a lot on the last episode.
Yeah, it felt good to kind of get some of that off my chest, to be honest with you. Had been thinking about it quite a lot. And
right, you were obviously a lot closer to the line of fire there.
Yeah, he was. He was one of the members that came with us from the other game over to this one. Had been with the league for quite a long time, and he was probably the most active person in league chat, to be honest with you. He was always the one that when you come home, you'd log on, and he's on. He says, "Hey, how are you doing? What happened today? And hey, what do you think about this?" Right? We had a lot of debates and a lot of friendly discussions about what is it that's why are certain decks winning, and just all sorts of things about the game. But then we had some serious discussions from time to time. It was
life issues and stuff, right?
He was a very introspective person, mm-hmm. and he definitely helped me as well about a few personal issues. So.
Right. So so going back to my WoW days, there was a guild member, there was a rogue in my original guild, and found out that he had died during that time period when I was in that guild, and I talked to him quite avidly, and it was just one of those things where any moment in time, somebody can be here and then not here. Yep. And it leaves a void in anything you do, whether you're playing sports or games like we do, or any type of community. Eventually, people are going to pass on, and so the important thing is what we're going to do with it, and how we're going to handle it, and support each other while supporting those families. I think that's the most important thing. So speaking of that, I think there's some sort of a support thing that's ramping up for him. Juzam, talk to me about that.
Sure. So for people who don't know, Strife was a counselor at a high school, mm-hmm. and so his family has decided to start a scholarship fund in his name, and one of the members of our guild had talked with his family about that, and we haven't decided the details of it yet. But we're trying to see if there's a way that we can do a fundraiser through some gaming events, maybe either through streaming or maybe a tournament, but something to help turn what's a tragedy and a negative into something positive.
Yeah, I really hope that we can. And so, if this fund does take off, I'm sure that we'll be in contact with you, and possibly we might do some streamer type things. The different streamers might support you with donation buttons, and we'll just pass all the donations over or something, or maybe we can work something out. I would definitely support an effort like that. I'm not someone that really needs a lot of money, because I have a day job. But that's something I think that would be definitely gaming for good, going in that direction.
Right.
So transitioning from there, we're going to go over to the patch notes, and I think what I'm going to do is, while this baby is crying, I'm going to tell my wife to try to go somewhere where she can close the door, and I'll let Juzamjedi just lead it off.
Sure, not a problem. From the patch notes here, I think probably the biggest and best benefit is the Swiss drafts. So for the people who maybe either just aren't quite as experienced or just want to experiment, Swiss drafts give you a chance to go and do something with maybe a card or different shard even that you don't normally draft, and go play the 3 rounds with it and see actually how the games would play out. See if you'd be able to have a little bit of something different. Um, for the people that are the EV crowd and you want to win the most packs possible, it's not really the thing that you want to be doing, but it is a way to go and play some more with your cards and do. I think that favors the people that want to experiment a little bit and maybe learn a little bit about some of the cards that they haven't been able to play. That's I think probably the biggest thing. There's a lot of smaller quality of life improvements.
Right.
Probably one of the other things that was kind of awkward was the messages you get on the Wheels of Fate. I know that was always awkward to me that it would just say fail spin.
Yeah, I like that
because it actually says fail spin.
Yeah, well, I mean that's usually when it's saying that, that's that's probably a variable name that they gave it that you're seeing.
I'm sure
you're not supposed to see it.
Right, but exactly the fact that you weren't supposed to see it and then it said fail spin, I just thought that was funny.
Right. I mean, yeah, because typically what you want to do when you're naming variables for programs is you want to make it so that the variable names the function, not necessarily like if you named it like Wheel of Fate and then all of a sudden it changed to some sort of, I don't know, roulette game or something. Now all of a sudden you're looking for the wrong thing. Whereas if it's talking about a spin and we're always spinning, then yeah, that's the just a functional thing for programming in general. So yeah, I agree with you. The Swift drafts, sometimes when you get into a draft, you feel like, oh man, I just got a really bad matchup on this first game. I really wish I could have played 2 and 3 more games, so that way I could see if I was flawed in the way I drafted this deck, or because I felt like I really had a good draft or with this deck. So for people that I think they're trying to maybe build up their drafting expertise and they want to see how well they're going to do, it's definitely good for that. People that want to play more games, something you're going to want to see. I mean, if you are the worst person in the draft, that's the only time you're not getting a pack of cards out of it, so that's pretty good. So for the most part, you should at least get $2 back, net gain for your draft. So you're still putting money into the pot. But yeah, you're saying, like, estimated value, you're not going to do as well as the 5/3 that's currently available, and of course eventually we should have 8/4 available, right, possibly too. Right now it's 5/3/2/2/2/2, right? Or is it, no, it's 5/3/2/2. So 8/4 will be even better for people that typically do a little bit above the average. And when we're saying above the average, we're saying like maybe a little less than 60% win ratio, because that's actually a really good ratio for card games. They added some deck sleeves on now, so you can do the deck sleeves in between your games, so you can show off your bling. So that's pretty nice. They keep saying this. They keep trying to fix. Go ahead.
I want to pause you there for a second. Actually, one thing that I do want to do is I want to mess around with actually getting custom sleeves and seeing if I can have some of those showing on the stream. I think that would be fun to do.
Right. So another thing is the player changing stuff in between draft rounds or in between tournament rounds. Like, that was still not working right. And according to Juzamjedi, he said that it was working correctly last night. So hopefully it's finally been fixed, because you shouldn't be able to change stuff in between. Do you know if you can still change gems and gem sockets? Like,
so you can there's not a reserves button now.
Right.
So in between rounds, it's kind of awkward, because like as a streamer, I can't show people who maybe came in after the draft finished, right, and show them what the deck looks like at all. So there's no way to even edit the deck. It's just whatever it is what you're going to play for your next round.
Hopefully we'll see that come back later, because that was something nice to have as a streamer. You could show people what the deck looked like and then just not change anything. I was just kind of wondering, because they always talked about how you could re-gem cards in between your. Yep. You can still do that?
Yeah, you can still regem cards. So if you
Okay,
have
on
a
rounds
matchup where you
or
want to change it, you can
game
do
two
it in
and three.
between game 2 or 3. Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting that they allow that. Gold is working as intended, and I opened up some chests recently, and I had exactly 1,200 gold, which is exactly what I needed for like a common chest, and it wouldn't open because most likely the way it was set up was a greater than, not greater than or equal to or something, or less than equal to or whatever. It's one of those two things. The way the function was probably set up, and so they fixed that. They probably put that equal sign in there.
Right.
Which it might be more difficult than that. I mean, I have no idea. I can only guess at what the code has to say, but it's somewhat likely that's what was the problem there. I had to have 1,201 gold, not 1,200, because of a like greater than less than sign. But there's not too many other things. Most of the stuff was quality of life or bug fixes on cards. I don't think that there was anything where it's an exploit that they've highlighted this week, which is kind of good. I did see someone that came into my channel during the draft last weekend, and they said that they had someone use an exploit against them. So, just like to point out to people that let's try to give people leeway, but at the same time, if you do see someone use an exploit against you, go ahead and report it on the forums, and then let Cryptozoic take care of it. I'm not saying that person's going to get banned right away, but usually when there's a history of this person doing things over and over again, which are poor sportsmanship and stuff like that, that's usually when I would think that a company would ban them. But if there's blatant disregard for the rules, they're going to go back through those chat logs, and hopefully right now they still have the manpower to do that and check to make sure people are good. Of course, when we get a ton of people in the game, we're definitely going to need more in-game GMs to go through chat logs and do things like that. Hopefully it won't get as ugly as like League of Legends with like the tribunal, but yeah. So anything to add on to that I just talked about there?
Yeah, not on that one. I mean, for the most part, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt when I'm playing against them. Some people just don't know.
Right, exactly. Or sometimes
So,
things aren't reading correctly, like the graphics don't look right. I know for a while, like people didn't see the what was it like the honey cap kept adding power every turn, and my opponent saw it that way, but I didn't see it that way. Like my honey cap was the same power and toughness. So he called me out for. I have it actually recorded on one of my early games during alpha, where he said I was cheating.
I mean, there's
Oh,
we
yeah.
can't do anything about the cars, and you find out about things. One of the things that I had heard, and I haven't actually tested this one, but I had heard that if you have the Master Theory Crafter and you would put a Warbot into play at end of turn, it would actually go to your turn because you're doing it during the end of turn step, not
Right.
the actual beginning of the end of turn. So it never sees the beginning of the end of the turn, and then just stays around forever.
Oh, I
That was
see.
apparently an exploit that I had never even noticed or seen. But
Well, in Magic
pretty wild.
terms, you could do stuff like that, with stuff that would like, yeah, like if it had to leave play at the end of the turn, then you would simply do it after the end of the turn, and you would have it all the way up until your next end of turn. So that's what should be happening optimally with that situation.
I think the way you just described it is the way that it's supposed to be working now.
Right, but it's probably not.
I haven't
It's probably
actually
hitting
tested
some
it.
sort of like zone where it's funny, and so like it's already in play, and yeah, it's probably looking at it differently. But yeah, exactly that way is how some things with mimics and copies work in Magic terms. But of course, we've seen a lot of stuff not go exactly that way. Like Flock of Seagulls can block crush damage, stuff like that. So that's pretty much it for the interview and for the talking points on this interview. So I just like to say thanks to Juzamjedi for coming on the show. And it'll be a good show tomorrow, even though we had a little bit of baby crying. I'll try to get all that stomped out beforehand, do this late enough, but apparently those babies, they're just going to cry no matter what. And so tonight we talked about Juzamjedi and some of the content he's doing in his guild Dragonborn. We also talked about some unfortunate events with one of our members of the community, Heavy Hitter. And we went over the patch notes. So until next time, this is Aaron Squire signing off, saying God bless you and your families, and try not to rage too much out there. We are back, and we are going to go ahead and just go right into this deck, Doctor, because there's really no other news to talk about. And so tonight we have a Reginald Lancashire deck to go over, and I don't have a guest on, unfortunately. I couldn't get anyone else to come on and brave this one with me. So we're going to actually, first thing, I'm going to go ahead and look back at the Lancashire deck that I did with, it was one of the Hex TCG, the podcast people from Threshold Podcast. So this is the one we did before, another Lancashire deck, where we use Feather Drifting Downriver to give Lancashire a flying, so we have some sort of evasion. We're using Fiendish Cabalist because he gets really big when we have our opponent has lots of cards in hand. We're trying to make it so our opponent had a lot of cards in hand with Cerebral Fulmination. We use Heat Wave and then a bunch of burn spells to keep the board cleared. And then we had like Tatalka. We just threw a bunch of fun cards in here. So we're going to go a different direction with this one. So that was that one. This one's going to use a little bit more mill. So one of the big cards that we didn't use in the first time we tried to do this deck is Crazed Rummaging, and this is kind of a big deal for us. Each champion draws 3 cards and then discards 3 cards at random. So that, plus if we gem Eldritch Dreamer for the gem that is, I believe it's Intensity. Yeah, or no, it's this one. Discard your hand. It says discard your hand and then draw 3 cards. That's kind of a big deal. That's going to help him get to that Lancashire. So that's probably how we're going to go ahead and gem our Eldritch Dreamer in this deck. Unfortunately, that wasn't working just now. So let's go ahead and look at all the other cards we could put in here. He's got a lot of mill in here, which we have to be careful about how much mill we do, because milling cards, a lot of them don't even affect our board state. You know, Chronic Madness, Fate Rack. What else doesn't really even affect our board state? Twisted Fate. All those cards don't affect our board state, so we have to be careful on how many of those we're going to run. But we're going to go ahead and try to do some sort of a mill angle on this. We will be doing a giveaway at the end of the episode, just so everyone's aware. So depending on who's in here, I see like one person I think that may not have a Hex Alpha or Hex Alpha invite, or Hex Alpha, or not Alpha, we're in Beta. Hex Beta invite, Spider C. So I mean, if you're the only person in here, I won't even roll, because I'm not gonna like hold the keys hostage. I want to get people into the game as soon as possible. Although I think I might do a YouTube contest for some of these keys as well. So let's go ahead and get our colors going here. We got Ruby and Sapphire, and then of course no color for our all of the artifacts that could go in here, and start looking through what we could do to maybe some other things with the deck. So we'll probably tentatively we're gonna probably throw some. Oh, it's not mine. This isn't my version of the deck. That's why it's not working. I need to change little move back over there. All right. So this time for sure, we're gonna actually start adding some cards to this deck. So. Alright, so obviously we've got some of the burn spells, and I'll also be announcing the winner of the combo deck from episode 27 or 9 or whatever it was, the one where I wanted you guys to use, it's actually going to be this deck, but where I wanted you to use Shrewd Manipulation, but I digress. I'll announce that winner at the end there, and we'll go over that deck after I'm done with this deck. We're going to throw Ragefire in here tentatively, and we're going to talk about it and how it's probably not going to work for this deck, or it's not going to be one of the things we want to have in here. I mean, Ragefire works in any deck, to be honest, but we want to be careful with Ragefire. We are looking at some PvE cards, because sometimes that stuff doesn't show up quite right in the deck, so that's why we are seeing some of the PvE cards. Mirror Knight could be interesting, I guess, but it's probably not what we want to do. What we really want to do is play Lancashire on turn 2 and then make him unblockable and get him in our opponent's deck on turn 3. That's the optimal line of play. That's our god hand in this deck. So Yeah, I don't think we really need Sapper's Charge because we're already in Ruby. We've got Burn, which is much, miles ahead of Sapper's Charge. Suppressive Fire, we might end up going up more on those. Veteran Gladiator could be useful to clear the way a little bit, so we'll tentatively put some Veteran Gladiators in there. Counter Magic is definitely... we probably aren't going to use it in the deck, but we can throw it on the reserves or the sideboard for the deck. And the children are screaming because my wife doesn't have control, of course. Buccaneer is another good one, of course, to help us clear paths, because that's the big thing with this deck. We really need to clear a path. And another thing we're going to consider playing or not playing is going to probably be the Heat Wave. Heat Wave deals 2 to all creatures, so it depends on the creatures we decide to run. Fulmination we ran in the other deck. I'm not sure that I think we're going to stay away from running Fulmination in this deck because it does allow our opponent to draw cards, so she should play Blood. My wife, or I'm not sure who you're talking about. Okay, so we need this Crimson Clarity to get our God Hand to go off, so we're definitely going to throw those in there. We're probably going to play a full play set of these. Now, when we play cards like Crimson Clarity, it helps us accelerate, but at the same time, we give up card advantage because now we're playing a card in order to get resources to play another card. So we're basically using up 2 cards in our hand to play 1 card that's going to permanently sit on the board. So do keep that in mind when you're playing with cards like Crimson Clarity. Although if we get ahead far enough, fast enough, it won't matter. Heat Wave, we're going to tentatively put Heat Wave in, but we might just pull these out or throw them on the reserves, depending on what we feel like we're going to be running up against. Blood Control. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, of course. Blood and Control. We'll probably throw maybe some more Eldritch Dreamer. Eldritch Dreamer is another great one to accelerate into. Getting a turn 3 Eldritch Dreamer, although it's not going to happen that often because we're in 2 shards, it's still a possibility. And in fact, because we're now in 2 shards like that, we should probably consider Adaptable Infusion Device. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll just try. We'll see if that fits our curve or if we want to put those in there or not. Adaptable. I started writing out the word tentative. I'm using the word tentative a lot tonight. That's what happens when I don't have anyone else as a sounding board in the channel with me. So I got to do all the talking. Alright, so moving on. So let's see what we've got. What else have we got we could put in here? Alright. The Oracle songs, we might pump up those as well. He's already got those in the deck, so we don't have to worry about that too much. Let's see, what else? Wizard of Silver Talon, probably not going to fit what we're trying to do. I do like that I thought about it for a little while, and I actually kind of like Ancestors Chosen in this deck. After I thought about it for a little while. And again, when we're doing these decks, you're still going to have to test them. Like the deck I did last week, I did test it and made some more modifications to it, but ultimately I found that it just wasn't really that great. And that's just how it is. I mean, that's trial and error. You have to fail a lot more than you're going to succeed. And so just pushing your limits and trying new things out is always, it's always something that I would like to encourage people to do. Imp Hoodlums is, of course, more of a reserves card. I don't typically do reserves right now just because we can't play best of 3 games unless you're playing in a tournament, and no one wants to really play constructed tournaments right now. So that's typically what I typically don't do that, or why I don't do that right now. Let's see, other cards that will clear the way for us. Yesterday does, but it's too late for us to really use it effectively. Plan C is another one because I think we're going to run, what's his name, a guy that, I forget, it was Lord Alexander. I think Plan C plus Lord Alexander could be a secondary win con for us. I think that we're going to definitely run 2 Lord Alexander. I think he really helps out the deck quite a bit. Crushing Blow is another card we should consider because people are really going to want to stop Lancashire, so that would help out. And of course, Gore Feast also could be pretty decent, maybe as a one-of in this deck. We want to be offensive, that's for sure. We also have that mill, aspect. I kind of want to have mill as like maybe a secondary win con in here. Alright, so let's see. Enigma Engine, yeah. Alright, so we've got 89 cards. We kind of have to whittle this down. So he talked to me about some of his different perceptions of things, but he's got like Shrine of Prosperity in here, and I've thought about it, and it's okay. It's not the greatest. It's not really what we want to be doing on turn 2. Again, on turn 2, we want to play our Lancashire and try to just go for the throat with it. Other cards, we've got Crazed Rummaging. I think that one we can... Let's go ahead and buff that up, too. Because, like, if you don't have your combo in your opening hand, you can easily play the Crazed Rummaging and try to get to it. Of course, it is random. So, but, you know, this is one of those cards where it's like, you really got to look at your hand to see if you want to play it. I do really... I feel strongly that we want to have 2 Lord Alex in here, especially because we can play him on turn 2 with the wonderful Crimson Clarity. Suppressive Fire at 3 should be fine for now. I like having Buccaneer in here. Probably Buccaneer is a little bit better than Gladiator because Gladiator has to keep attacking every turn. I think we are going to go away from using Heat Wave, but we'll throw it on the reserves just for that matchup. So we'll go ahead and move those to the reserves for now. I'm not going to move a whole play set, but you just realize you're going to make a decision on how many of those you're going to have in there. I like the Eldritch Dreamer in here with that gem that we talked about. Let's keep that at 3 for now. It's a little bit clunky. In order to play it effectively, I think we're going to have to play the Infusion device with that. And another poor interaction that we have here is like Rage Fire and Chronic Madness. Now, if we want to play with Crazed Rummaging and we're also using that gem on Eldritch Dreamer, most of these cards that are going to shuffle back into our deck are probably not going to be the best for us because we're not going to get the full effectiveness. We're probably going to be throwing them away a lot, actually. So in that case, I'm not sure if this is something that would really take some playtesting to understand which one really works for you. Rage Fire is obviously a lot better than Chronic Madness because it's going to give you more board state control. Although if you do top deck for Chronic Madness at the beginning of the game, I mean it could be a game winner for you. So if you're trying to go that way, I mean that also could win games for you. But I would err on the side of Rage Fire over Chronic Madness. But let's go ahead and pull both of them here, mostly because they're rare and people don't have collections right now. So let's try to run a deck that we're kind of there's not going to be a lot of people that probably have like a play set of Rage Fire, for instance, right now. Phoenix Guard Trainers are an iffy choice for me because we got to look at how many things that it's buffing. Now it is buffing more things now that we've added the Buccaneer and we've got Lord Alexander. We can also play it on turn 2 with the Crimson Clarity again. Giving Eldritch Dreamer flying is really not useful. I mean, except unless you're going to block with them. Also, the Phoenix Guard Trainer doesn't buff any of our Ancestors Chosen or any of the Spectres that it's putting into play. So do keep that in mind as well. The Fate Rack, I'm not sure how many of those we want to have in here. Obviously, it's going to help out. It's more of a buff for Lancashire once he's in the deck, but he still has to get in the deck. So, a lot of things have to line up. A lot of stars have to align for Fate Rack to be amazing in this deck. So maybe we'll just take that down to 1 for now. It's still cast for 3, and it's only 1. You can use it in your opponent's end step. You don't have a lot of reactive spells in here, so I think we're probably going to want to have the playset of Burn for sure, so that way you can, again, help clear the way or just take care of problematic things. Again, I'm looking at Shrine of Prosperity, and I'm really questioning whether I want to run it. Shrine of Prosperity gets a lot better with a lot of the cards that are the escalation cards because they're going to shuffle back into your deck. But now that we've taken those away, I mean, it's basically giving troops +1/+1, and it's giving our opponent a lot of information. Not that that really matters because, we've hopefully put Lancashire in their deck. Again, we're kind of building a whole deck around one card, which isn't an optimal thing to do to begin with. But, you really have to, work on, how much stuff you can get to work with this type of deck. I did play against a Replicator's Gambit deck recently that I felt pretty good. It was Wild, Sapphire, and Ruby, and it was being played by Havoc. I think that he could get rid of the Ruby part of it, and it could be perfectly fine being just the dual shards and actually be pretty competitive. But Shrine of Prosperity, I'm looking at it in here, and It does give away information. It's not that big of a deal. It makes some things bigger. It's not horrible, but I don't know that I would play a full playset of 3 of them. Our curve is kind of like way in the low end. He's also only running 22 shards, so I'm going to buff that up to 23 for now, just so we can keep that in mind when we're looking at our deck, and we'll count the shards out, and when we get the cards set in our deck. Oracle Song is another good one. If we wanted to, or if it's getting down to it, we can force our opponent to draw cards with it. I mean, very few situations are going to come up where that's going to happen, but still could happen. Ancestors Chosen, I said I did like. I think we'll just go down to 1 Phoenix Guard Trainer because, again, it's like a buff, and it buffs all the troops that we have put in the deck, which is pretty good. And it gives Lancashire that evasion factor, which will help out. Another card I think that we're definitely going to pull out of here is Spawn of Uthieg, because it's just not going to do a lot for us. We don't, like, a turn 2 Spawn of Uthieg is really not what we want to do with this deck. We want to play a turn 2 Lancashire. And it also, like, wastes resources when we're using Crimson Clarity. So I'm not really seeing this 1/1 body being that great for us. Spawn of Uthieg, if I was ever going to play it at all in some sort of mill deck, would probably go in some sort of mono Sapphire mill deck, or a Blood Sapphire mill deck with sweeps and that type of thing, where it is that you can clear the way a little bit better. I mean, that is what we're trying to do, and we do have a lot of cards that help out with that, but I'm really just not seeing this guy being what we want to do in this deck. Also, in those types of decks, he's like the only guy in there, so there is that. Crushing Blow, let's see, is it when he deals damage? Yeah, so Crushing Blow has got to stay with Reginald. That's going to help out not only Reginald, but everybody else. Let's see, do we get crush damage out of Gore Feast? I don't think that we do. No, we just get an extra attack phase, and Gore Feast is really good too. That's another one we can Crimson Clarity into if we really needed to. Plus, getting 2 attacks with Eldritch Dreamer seems pretty good. So, and this is a very accessible card because it is in the Orc starter deck. So, this is very much a card that everyone should have. Twisted Fate's a pretty easy cut for me, I think. So, I'm looking at this card, and again, it doesn't affect board states. It's really difficult for me to want to play this in this type of deck where we're trying to get Lancashire to, like, into the deck and do stuff, but while having, 2 different pronged attacks. We're both throwing things into his deck and milling him, and then, this card, if I was going to play it at all, I'd probably play 1 or a 2 of, but I'm really just not seeing it with Eldritch Dreamer is just so much more efficient than him. And Rummaging is both of those things are just way more efficient than Twisted Fate's going to be. So I think we're just going to go ahead and just pull that from the deck. We're not doing a lot of card drawing in this deck necessarily. We're doing a lot of, like, making our opponent discard cards more than anything else. So let's see what we've got. We got 68 cards we need to get rid of. Quite a few more. I'm really looking at this Shrine of Prosperity and just saying to myself, how many buffs do we want in the deck? At least when we're talking about, like, Phoenix Guard Trainer, he is a body at the same time. So even if he's not buffing anything, he's at least a 2/2 body. Of course, the troops are the most removable thing in the format, so you do have to keep that in mind as well. But I don't know. I really just... we're not really a reactive deck anyways, so it's not too bad to give things, although Crushing Blow is a reactive card, so I don't know. I don't think I want this Shrine in the deck. I really don't. I think that that's a different card for a different deck. Our 1-drops are crazy high for some reason. Wow, we are, like, all over the place now that I got rid of Shrine. So we need to get rid of, like, 1-drops and 3-drops is what it looks like. I'm not sure how much we really need this infusion device. We can take that down to 1. We've got Suppressive Fire. What else do we have? I mean, some of the 1-drops kind of could count as 2-drops. We've got Crazed Rummaging, Crushing Blow. It's really debatable. I mean, these 1-drops could sort of count as your 1 and 2-drop range, because a lot of times you're not going to play them in your first, at the beginning of the game. But I don't like to have too many of them at the beginning of the game. So probably... Maybe we get rid of maybe 1 Crazed Rummaging, because it could be a clunky card, because there could be times when you're just sitting on your hand and you're like, well, I really want to just hold on to this hand, and now I've drawn like 2 Crazed Rummaging, which I can't use. Or maybe take it down to even just just two. Two should be fine. With Eldritch Dreamer, Eldritch Dreamer is very efficient. It's going to come later in the game, and that by that time, hopefully you should have dumped your hand out anyways, and so you really want to draw those 3 cards. Whereas Crazed Rummaging is completely random. At least with Eldritch Dreamer, you're discarding your whole hand when you do it. And again, he works probably better with Gore Feast. So let's see, what else can we do? I'm looking at this Phoenix Guard Trainer. I'm considering not keeping it, but I'm also looking at some of these 1-drops right now. Oh, Mortar Strike. This is a card that works with the overall theme of the deck, but it's a basic action speed card, and it really just does 3 damage to it's pretty non-stellar. If I was going to run a card instead of this, I'd probably run Ruby Lance. I understand that this card does exactly what this deck wants it to do. Maybe if it was at least quick action, or if it costed 4 or something, I could see it, maybe. But this is a much better draft card than it is a constructed card, so it's really hard for me to justify playing this 5-drop. This also pulls us out of the 5-point range, which makes our deck curve a lot better. So if you're going to play that card at all, I'd probably just play 1. We're down to 61 cards. We're in a pretty good spot right now. I think 1 infusion device should be perfectly fine to help us out with some of the fixing when we really want to play that turn 3 Eldritch Dreamer, or of course the turn 2 Lancashire, and then Suppressive Fire to get him through. Nin the Shadow, as far as your champion, you could choose him, or you could go back to what I had before, which was the flying champion Feather Drifting Downriver. You could choose to go that direction. We could probably get rid of maybe an Oracle Song here. Oracle Song is helpful, but it's not necessarily... I mean, you could turn 2 an Oracle Song, and that's kind of cute, and that helps you refill your hand. Doesn't do a ton for you. Let's see, Crazed Rummaging. I'm looking at these 1-drops again, because that 1-drop range really kind of... Suppressive Fire at 3... Yeah, I suppose that should be okay. We could maybe take that down to 2. We really want to get Lancashire. We're trying to get that Lancashire in play. Also, Lord Alex helps us do it later on in the game if we play the Lord Alex first. Playing 2 of him is definitely very, very doable. You could even up these to 3 if you really wanted to. Especially, you've got the combo of Lord Alex plus Buccaneer, which seems really good because you play your Lord Alex and then you Buccaneer that 1 blocker away, and now you've got 5 damage coming through. And then you can do it again and again and again. So that seems like a very strong combo to me. Again, Nin the Shadow, I'm not sure that I would necessarily run him. We already have plenty of other things that mill our opponent fairly efficiently with Eldritch Dreamer and Crazed Rummaging. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to leave him in the deck, but I don't really see him being great. Fate Rack's another one. I feel like, again, our Eldritch Dreamer is just much better at milling with that gem than the Fate Rack, and it's a body. So I think we can get rid of the Fate Rack, and then we can just, what we'll do is we'll move 1 to the reserves, and that way in the control matchup we can play Fate Rack, because the control matchup's going to remove our bodies anyways. So this curve, I'm not stoked about this curve. I'm really not very happy with it, but most of our stuff is in that 1-point range, so we're going to have a lot of stuff that we can do. You might also consider playing more like Ancestors Chosens in here, if you like. If that's something it is going to dilute the deck and make it tougher for you to draw out Lancashire and get that stuff going, but they'll also give you blockers and do a lot of other things for you. I mean, you could completely cut Ancestors Chosen if you find that it makes the deck harder to combo off, which it will. It's going to make it harder to combo off, even though you're drawing cards with those guys. So I want to talk about one more thing before we move on to the giveaways and stuff. So Lancashire by himself is a unique troop, but when you're attacking with him and dealing damage, he's basically leaving play. Now, typically when you're talking about unique troops, I don't like to run more than 3 of them. However, with Lancashire, because that effect is happening, there's a very good chance he's not going to be on the board anyways. Or you're going to attack in with him and have your Crushing Blow in hand, and now he's a 5/5 coming through, which could be a lot tougher to deal with. Or with Gore Feast, he could be even better. I think Gore Feast is another one that can push this deck really over the top. But yeah, this should be an interesting deck to play. It's going to take a lot more refinement, is what I would say. You're going to need to play the deck and get a good feel for what's going on. Again, I really think that we need to refine it and somehow find a way to reduce this 1-point range and get the 2-point range built up, and we'll have something a little bit better, or something that feels a little bit better. All right, so right, you could play Gore Feast in your second, main phase, and get that, second attack phase as well if things go well, or depending on what happens. So that there's a lot of tricks, there's a lot of nuances to this deck that you would have to work out. There's a lot of things that are going to happen during your first and second main phase with a lot of these basic action cards, that's for sure. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to the contest winner from when we were talking about the Shrewd Manipulation deck. So this isn't exactly what I put together, but I'm just going to highlight exactly what this deck does. Now, a lot of other people did the same combo I'm going to describe to you. So if you're out there and you get a little bit annoyed because you did the same combo, the reason why I picked this deck is because I felt like his curve was decent. He was doing what I was trying to do. His deck also seemed to pay attention mostly to the metagame. Now, he does have 61 cards in his deck, which I had to. You definitely want to pull that down, but we'll just run through this fairly quickly. Now, he's running Farney. I don't think anyone else was running Farney in their deck, and I think this is really good because he's going to do a lot of removal. And in the deck, the combo is we want to have Hex Engine in play and Shrewd Manipulation. And we need to have a Bird of Plenty in play. Now, we deal any points of damage we can to Bird of Plenty, and eventually, hopefully, we'll draw Ragefire. Once we do that, we can keep dealing damage to Bird of Plenty and draw more Ragefire, drawing enough cards that we can discard cards to Shrewd Manipulation, untap Hex Engine, giving us basically infinite resources, until it is that our Ragefire builds up to such a point where we can basically one-shot our opponent. Wasn't really a big fan of the Cosmic Totem in here. The Chimes is fine as a one-of, I felt. And he is running Hex Engine, which is going to help him accelerate. So I felt like this deck really was well put together. And I actually did create a video where I did go off. It took me 5 minutes to do the combo once I had Hex Engine plus damage plus Bird of Plenty plus Shrewd Manipulation in play. Now, that is a 4-card combo, which I would not suggest playing in a competitive sense because there's a lot of chance for this deck being stifled. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys this was not Norius. Its name is Volgaran. Volgaran, one of my Twitch followers. So I'm going to go ahead and send him 2 of the drafts that I got today. I'm glad that I was able to do that. I promised 5 packs, but the drafts will give him 6. So congratulations to Volgaran for that. And then we will move over and we'll go ahead and do the giveaway. Now I need to pull up my MooBot. I have this saved, so you guys are going to have to bear with me for a minute here. Alright, so it's under this Hex Shards of Fate, and it is MooBot. And we'll do a draft giveaway here. And then we will close out the episode. So, all right. So no one in the chat right now. You guys need to tell me if you don't have alpha access. Because if you don't have alpha access, I will give that person alpha access. I think you guys all do. Does anyone, Melancus, do you have alpha access? Because if you don't, I'll just give it to you. Because I know all the rest of these guys do. Because I know them pretty well. So give me an answer before I do this drawing, or answer me after I do this drawing. Otherwise, we're going to give away. I'm going to give away one of the free drafts. Okay, I'm waiting. I'm going to go ahead and do the drawing, but Melancanus, whatever your name is. Okay, he's okay. So we'll just do a free draft drawing. So I'm just going to hit this button. It should see everyone in the channel. Please be following me. I will be checking on this. I think everybody here is following me already. Could not draw from my raffle. Come on. Open. Okay, so I should just be able to draw user list raffle. Okay, there we go. Just do it that way. And Sundai. So Sundai, you win a free draft, so I will go ahead and message that to you after the episode is over. So congratulations to Sundai, and thanks for stopping by and coming into the live draft. Also, I have decided that I will be giving away alpha access and a free draft to one of the viewers that posts on an upcoming YouTube video once I have 300 viewers or 300 subs on my YouTube. I think that's going to be the next contest I'm going to do. So look for that YouTube video, which will be coming up. I'm going to go ahead and link it on this Deck Building with the Squire episode. And make sure you go on there, you comment. I'm going to go ahead and explain all the rules on that video. And then if you guys want, or if you have people that want to get alpha access, tell your friends, get them interested. Also support all the other streamers out there. We've got a lot of alpha access that's gone out just today for people. I know a lot of people were looking for access to alpha, and so a lot of streamers are now have their keys. I saw a lot of that go on over my Twitter today. So just to recap, tonight I had a special guest Juzamjedi on with a pre-recorded episode, and then we went over some pretty awesome Reginald Lancashire, because everyone loves this guy, decks. And then I talked about the Infinite Combo deck, which was sent to me by Volgaran, and he's won 2 drafts, so he definitely deserves it for waiting so long. And that's pretty much it. So until next time, this is Aaron Squire signing off, saying God bless you and your families. Try not to rage too much out there.